faculty members, and in terms of their recruitment of people who could provide the necessary leadership. So the talent management became very, very focused. Their requirements for output very high, and their industry engagement, or should I say business engagement, very, very strategic. So those would be three things that over many years the faculty have been building up their credentials. Of course, you know, the teaching and learning quality has been critical to all of that. And one of the challenges for the business faculty has been the very high proportion of international students in the faculty. I can't remember what proportion it is, but it must be 50% or more, with the predominant group being Chinese students. And that's created many challenges for driving the teaching and learning strategies to be successful with a cohort of international students who have perhaps different expectations and different learning styles. So it's been multifaceted. Having got there, and the preparations, by the way, leading up to the final outcome were 2 years in terms of preparing the materials and getting everything in order, and having a team who were dedicated to it. So it wasn't a last minute thing. The team were assembled very early on, and those people became expert in assembling everything that was required for presenting the very best face of the faculty when the assessment time came around. And having, because Monash is so global, where business is offered in different places, actually making sure that the team on different sites were really cooperating with each other. So our Malaysian team worked very closely with the team at Clayton. They got their stories right, they were singing from the same hymn sheet, as it were, and that level of cooperation took a lot of planning and delivery. So those are just some of the things that I've been aware of in the awarding, and of course all of those things are going to be important in retaining the Triple Crown, because these things are not for life. You have to be reassessed. Your other questions, I might just, I can't remember what the second one was, but your last question on fundraising. Now, Australian universities typically have not been very good at fundraising. They're not like America at all. They don't have the history of philanthropy in the culture. I mean, Australia is a very new country, doesn't have the history of philanthropy. So it's been a challenge, I would say. Now, some Australian universities have done a lot better at alumni raising than others. And really, Monash has only sort of started to become much more strategic and serious about this in the last, I would say, 5 years or so. And the strategies around alumni raising have been, they're long-term strategies. They're about, first and foremost, building relationships, and not sort of, sending a letter out to alumni, 3 years after they've graduated, asking them for let's work. So, one aspect of the strategy is to build your alumni, while they're students, to get them into the spirit of the organisation, identifying with it, building that sense of belonging. So that's, more recent years, that's become a major part of our strategy, is working to build that identity with students. So we have them for life, and hopefully they're building inclination to give to the organisation. So it's a long-term strategy. The other part of it is really identifying prominent So the individuals who have reached great heights and who are very influential, and you know, those people are so grateful when we contact them. Even if they're very, very important in, you know, CEOs of large multinational companies or chief ministers or whatever, they love to be approached by the university to do something. I mean, you don't go ask for money. Of course, what you're doing is engaging with them, asking them to come and, you know, do an opening or be on an advisory panel or, you know, help with some scholarship scheme. So working out how to engage a prominent alumni and getting that relationship developing, you know, in a very strong way. That's, you know, that's another key element. There are many other parts of it, but that's probably a couple of things. I'm currently working on a major donation for our Malaysian campus. There has never been a donation before. It's harder if it's a private university. People are more inclined to give to public universities. Private universities, somehow there's a feeling, oh, you've got enough money. But of course, universities never have enough money. And I'm working on a major donation that came through quite a circuitous route, but I recognise that it could be a successful one. And I just put my personal effort into it. I didn't give it to somebody else to do. I worked on the relationship personally. You know, it required me going back to Australia for a couple of visits. It required me taking time out of weekends, going to different functions, and I've now been in Malaysia for nearly 2 years, and I reckon we will have this major donation secured probably early next year. That's quite quick. Actually, 2 years is quite quick, and there were a number of features of that were, you know, quite unique. But I reacted quite quickly. I could see, I started to develop a plan for how I could engage with this particular donor, and just, you know, was very persistent in working it through and not being too impatient. You know, some of my heads will say, why are you spending all this time? Just ask for the money. And of course, that doesn't work. But those are just some thoughts. I should probably...
I think what Prof. Bartlett has said, I'll just add that one of the key things if you want your alumni to donate is that they must have a good experience in the university. If they don't have a good experience in the university, it's very hard to get them to donate to you. But practice is also that if you look at US universities, the alumni will probably donate 10-20% of the total donations. There's still a big 80% that are really coming from high worth individuals who may not be related to your university, right? But are willing to donate to education because they're passionate about certain things. You know? They can be passionate about certain part of research, medical research. So if you have a medical school, a very good source of donation because your doctors cure a patient, the patient will be very happy to donate a professorship in cancer, in, you know, whatever. Those are actually very effective ways. So cultivating high worth individuals who are known to contribute towards education is a part of this donation drive. So you'll find that you really have to sell something to them. Alright? You have to know what they want. Are they interested in helping the poor students? Or are they hoping to support research to find a cure for certain disease? Or are they interested in general community service? And so on and so forth. So you need to know what they like to, and then you have to present your ideas to them. So you have to have a few very good ideas, compelling, that can make people say, okay, I think I can help and contribute. So there are many examples. For instance, recently we create an event, or rather a donation drive, for couples who met in NUS. So couples who meet in NUS, we ask them to donate a bursary, right? And then we have some event for them where we bring all these couples together, right? They can sort of relieve a little bit of their courtship during the university, all right? And we get them together. We also get them to bring their friends who have been couples when they were in university, hoping that we can tag on more and get them to donate. So this is one way. Right? But there are many, many ways in which you have to think of getting people to donate. You really have to have very good ideas. So our buildings are available for naming. So naming is good. Programs, some of the top programs, they are available for naming. Right? So we named our medical school for $100 million. Right? And that was quite good. And some schools, of course, the smaller schools, $30 million, and so on and so forth. We also allow naming of buildings, naming of classrooms. In US, even chairs, like chairs in the Senate room can be named. Right? So there are actually many ways that you can be creative. I would suggest that you just go to any website of US university, and the top are really Harvard, Princeton, the Ivy Leagues. They raise a lot of money every year. Right? In fact, recently, the University of Southern California, I think they raised $1 billion US within the last 5 years. $1 billion. Right? And you may actually want to look at their website and understand what are the things they do. You can learn a lot from them. So that's a question on fundraising. On accreditation, I do not have many problems with accreditation. We do go to accreditation, but we do not have many problems. My sense is that if you think right and do it right, you don't have to worry about accreditation. Right? And you need to put a lot of thoughts into your program. Right? And you make sure that you do it right and measure it right, then accreditation is the place. So that's my sort of 2 cents on that part. You mentioned about innovation. I don't quite catch your question about, are you asking for examples?
Yeah, you examples in NUS as a part of ASCSP accreditation, that's 3 parts. First is innovation, second is engagement, and the third is impact. There are 3 main points for ASCSP accreditation with the new standard now.
I see. So, well, I guess in terms of innovation, they probably be thinking of innovation in terms of education, right? So, for instance, our business school, one of the things that we introduced, which was quite useful, was this Enterprise 50 program. We want our students to understand small and medium-sized companies, how they grow. And we looked at sort of companies that were formed in the last 10 years and which have been doing very well. Then we sent a small group of students, and their purpose is to understand the business ideas of that company and why the company worked. Right? So it becomes a sort of a research program for this group of students. And we look at their report, and we even have the students summarize some of these reports and publish it in the local newspapers. So that's one example of an innovation where our students, sort of trying to understand and connect between theory and practice. Right? And that, I guess, is an donation. The engagement part is the part which I think I touched on, and I think particularly relevant for business students is the industry engagement, right? And I talk about internship, right? Internship have to be meaningfully integrated to the curriculum. You shouldn't just send a student to the internship and say that, oh, you basically have half a year off, you go and do some job. I don't even care what job you do. Then that's not it. In fact, you should prepare the students for the internship. You should have very good discussion with the company on how you can allow the student to learn while the student is working in the company. The student should not be like pouring coffees, writing minutes, organizing meetings. These are actually low-level jobs that you would not want your students to be doing. You want your students to value add the company, all right, and also to learn in the process. So the internship and the engagement and the meaningful way that this is integrated into your curriculum is extremely, extremely important. So what's the third component?
That's what we.
So we have innovation, engagement, and
impact.
Impact, we have talked about it. Impact can be measured in various ways. But like I said, it's important to know where the student go after that, whether the student get very good company sort of feedback, and then 5, 10 years, 20 years down the road, whether the student has succeeded, right, in his career or career.
Thank you very much, Professor Tan and Professor Bartlett, for the presentations and also for the discussion. I think because of the time, we have to stop this session, and we will continue during the lunch session. And we also will invite some of the participants here to join us in the third floor. Really, thank you very much, and for to close this session, that as we know, as we learned from Monash University, from Professor Bartlett, and also from the NUS, National University of Singapore, from Professor Tan, that maybe we have a different culture, different government, a different structure, etc. So what we have to do to strive for the world-class university is that we have to know where we are, and we have to continue our works and to encourage people to be with us to strive for the excellency of Universitas Gadjah Mada. Yeah, thank you very much for the wonderful presentations and talks.
Well, thank you, Ms. Ika to lead this session, and thank you so much, Professor Tan and Mr. Helen Bartlett, becoming speakers to this open lecture. And there will be token compositions represented by UGM representative, please Dr. Ika to give the souvenir or memento. Once again, thank you for Professor Tan and for all valuable contribution to this program. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of our program today, the open lecture. Thank you so much for your attention, for your coming today, and there are snacks, special provided to you outside of this room. Thank you so much.